can't quite get comfortable and look this way.
We're live.
Good evening, our Patriot family, and welcome to another episode of the Fight for Patriotism, where we discuss different preparations unique ability people can get to help them be safe if things go south, if they have to wait for others to get to them. I'm your producer, host, and Patriot brother Zachary Smouse, and with me are your Patriot brothers Rescue and Truth with Tom, and your Patriot sister Silver Girl and ⅏⅏⅏Ⅹ Virginia, and independent many can join us too. I'll start off with a prayer, play my introduction, and then I'll check on how the panel is doing today. Dear Lord, thank you for letting us come together and start learning how to prepare unique ability people if things go south. We just ask for protection so we can get this information out. I love you, my Lord. Amen.
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 We need you now. We need you now. One day, one day, one day, I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
How are you doing today? By the way, thank you for joining me on this lovely Friday evening.
Thank you for having me, Zach. I appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you for having me a minute, my job.
Very well here. Thanks. Appreciate being here.
And hey, chat. Hope everybody had a good day.
And this, he's my medical alert dog who wants to go take a nap now. But I wanted to introduce him because people heard about him.
So I have questions ready on banners for you guys.
Good deal, sir.
Sounds good to me.
So we got, what kind of preps would one need if they can't get to communication in time? do they make tools for neck and / wrist to get signals out for distress? So that'd be kind of like a life alert kind of thing. Or I think there's probably some third parties that you could just set up. Isn't there, Silver Girl or Tom, that just, because I think I've seen something where like it's a local or thing, so you can have it just set up with your people instead of like Life Alert where you got to go out to a big office. You can actually just have it on a small group, I think.
One of the things that you do around here is that the local fire department will come out and attach a box close to your door, and they take a key that you give them to your house and put it in the box, and the only person who has a key to the box is them. And that, so that if you go down and you can't get to the door to let them in, then they have their own key to get in. They also at that point have your medical information, your contact information for in case you're dead. They also, one of the other things they use it here for is, and I think this is not just here. I think that I've heard about it in other places. I heard about it in Vermont, and here in Washington is what I'm in Washington now. It's Washington State. And we had a bad storm, and we were without power for 10 days. And on the second day, they were here checking on me and my wheelchair to see if I needed to come to the fire department to charge up my chair so I could move. And offered actually to take me down there because the trees were still everywhere in the road and I couldn't get there in my car. And took me down, plugged me in, and brought me home. And then the next 2 days later, I was able to get myself there. But everybody was down there. I mean, everybody that needed health equipment or wheelchair plugged in, everybody could go and get plugged in. And they were running on a generator because we were out of power.
Now, did they come look for you, Silver Girl? So did they kind of like as they were doing, because that's what we did down here during the floods and stuff.
They had name and all my information from the lockbox.
Okay.
And with getting the lock, I didn't realize it at the time because I had not been here long. But in essence, the lockbox gets you recognized by them that you might need help. I had a housemate at the time, and now that I don't, and I'm alone, I have notified them of that. And basically, they show up. Even when the power goes out, if it's gone for longer than 24 hours, they'll show up, knock on the door.
Now, just out of curiosity, in your environment, is it a metropolitan? Is it kind of a suburban, or is it rural? Or
rural? I'm on a peninsula off of the lower end of Washington State, 3 blocks from the river. From the ocean.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I would just try to place it anybody that listens later too.
It's not rural in that it's got farms or things like that. It's got cranberry bogs, but it's got a couple, 3 of those. But it's basically just in fact, we don't get Medicare Advantage because there's too many old people here.
Okay.
It's just a bunch of old people.
Well, see, that's around here for us. It's that way, but it's rural as in all in the woods and stuff. And, you have real low income. Some people built nice houses back in, just so it's a variety, but it's a lot of retired and medical issues. So like around here, you can register with the volunteer fire department and what we'll do. And then there's a list that gets created, and then actually that's categorized even on people that, oxygen, diabetics, heart, kind of what categories without getting too into personal information. So just that way, as a responder, storm comes, like when the flood came, the river rose, we automatically went, and people that had oxygen, because we were waiting for power that was fixing to go out. It's just a matter of any time, some trees fixing to fall and knock out a transmission line. So we started a route of people that were doing oxygen breathers and stuff, COPD people that you got to have all that, and started checking on them. And we do CB radios around here. A lot of people, because it's the old school people, so it's just kind of like you get on and you do your little CB, and everybody totes some little handheld CB. So even if you're out running around and on your property, you'll catch that neighbor over there going, "Hey!" And we extracted a lot of people that way.
I like the fact that if my chair doesn't move, I don't. And so going out even on my deck is not going to happen if my chair's not moving. And after 2 days, even with trying to conserve, I was at the point of not moving when they showed up.
Your battery was dead.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure, but it's my understanding. Oh, go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry.
Grumpy, kind of. I'm thinking about like communicating out if they need someone that's not nearby if they need out.
So to get somebody's attention, whether it's through a device to reach and talk radio or flashing light, sometimes a signal light. A lot of the flashlights and headlamps have that feature where you can go into strobe mode. And the reason for that is because that way it can always catch somebody's attention if they're looking for you or they notice a flash in the window a couple of times. They go, "Hey, something." And it sounds so really, but I got to tell you, you go run a few of these hurricane evacuations, and after power has gone out, believe it or not, right at the dawn of time is a real good for search because you can catch the little flickers. And then as dusk time is a real good. Because you can start catching things that you missed in broad daylight because you didn't see that flashing light because it was so bright. But all of a sudden dusk, and once that sun crests them trees, you'll see this little, there's actually been a few people that little light, they've set it in the windowsill and it's sat there and has ran them AA until they go dead, and they'll change them out. Because around here we got rivers, so we got a lot of waterways. So if that road gets cut off, it's not going to be just driving through. You're going to have to wait for the boats to come by.
Right.
So
there are, I've seen one, the strobe light concept, and it has a white light that actually strobes in SOS and a red light that strobes in SOS so that you can see the red light during the daytime.
There you go. Here, I'll read that for you, Zach. So it says, Faith and Hope and Charity's Homestead says, that's what we have. We have a list of disabled, or as we call it, added abilities, and seniors, and also neighborhood watch. Even if I wasn't in the firehouse, they would know my home has wheelchairs.
Yeah. And I don't know that, I think everybody could go, even in I don't think in the city, maybe in the city, but at least in the suburban areas, they can go to their fire department and say, "Can we set this up?" Or your EMTs, whoever takes care of the ambulance and the rescues, and ask them to set it up.
Silver Girl, Ron said he just want to give a shout out to Silver Girl for doing this very concerning questions and things people would need to know during shift. So thank you for being here and shedding much light on this topic.
Thank you, Ron.
Also, the Ring doorbell people, I understand, have some sort of a network set up where, I mean, if you want to be part of that, and if your neighbors also have Ring, you can send alerts back and forth. It's kind of like a neighborhood watch. That's a poor way to explain it. But, and you can, person ought to think
Neighborhood
about
care.
pre-installing some of these devices, like a strobe light on the outside of your house that can be activated from a cell phone. We have wonderful technologies. Good evening, Cola.
Cola.
Hey, Zach, you want to pull Grumpy's thing up? It had a... He had a little deal. Do you see it? Or I can just already... He says, Grumpy says, Roger that, Zach. If you are just trying to get someone's attention, they make rape alarms to activate. All you do is pull the chain, 130 decibel alarm goes off. And that's, I was reading that while y'all were talking, and you know what came into mind is, remember way back, around anybody deaf, they always had the little lights in the corner, and that would let them know if somebody rang the doorbell, or they would have it hooked up to the old ringer to let them know that was to go over. Well, if you did that only on the outside instead, then you could just, if you could get to a spot, you could hit it. Well, it could start that flash like that on the porch, and a little solar light might even be a good thing. So that way it'll charge itself every day.
Right.
They have those.
Okay.
They do have them. I saw one, but got a flashlight with the red and white first.
Hey, Virginia. Everybody in chat. Because I will say too, and that's part of prepping and kind of being a thing, is getting to know people in that area, and making sure that your first responders and emergency personnel are aware of you. Kind of get to know them, try to organize a day where if it's hard to kind of get out and about, and trust me, I totally can get with that right now. And if you're bedridden, well, then get them to come to you and just say, look, I'd just like to get to know you. I just would like you to know myself. I'm here. And, and I'm just going to be honest about this. So some people might not like this later, but, sometimes we firefighters have a big halo that gets put over their head, but they are human. So sometimes they have a tendency of just kind of desensitizing to things to deal with it. So by reaching out like that, you're connecting them back into why they do what they do.
Yeah, the firefighters here even have a phone number to call for somebody to come and get Ace. If they have to take me off in an ambulance, they know leaving Ace alone is a no-no. And there's a phone number, and they know exactly where it is, and they're to call it while they're here so that the person can get here before they leave.
There you go.
So if you've got service dogs and you live alone, you really got to take them into consideration, because some of them are trained to be protective. Now, mine aren't. Mine are medical alerts. But there are dogs that are trained as protection, service dogs, and along with whatever else they do. And you need to introduce them to the people that are going to come to your house so that they know how to handle them, and vice versa. You don't want somebody having to come in and shoot your service dog.
No.
And, getting acquainted, go to your sheriff's department too and introduce yourself and just explain your situation, and they won't forget you.
Yep. A lot of power companies, that's another thing I'll throw in. A lot of power companies actually have lists for people that are running on equipment and stuff like that, so that they can actually give you a heads up if they see a major outage coming. Or, so it's good to just, sometimes people like to pull back and be reclusive, but given the times and things that are coming, it's time to kind of reach out and kind of establish connections to some key people, your power, your first responder, your sheriff, ambulance service,
make yourself
neighbors.
known. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. That's the...
So did mouthy old women. The alarm that you can wear around your neck, you can actually designate who is to be called. So they do not necessarily send the police, the fire, the medics. They don't do that. You have somebody that's designated to come to you. Now, some people, my neighbor, for example, has no one either, and her conditions are such that she needs immediate hospitalization if she goes down, without question. And so they just take her to the hospital. For me, they have one to call for him, but they also have same person to call to come and see if they can help me instead of needing an ambulance.
Got you. Okay. Anti-Adjack says, rescue, fight for patriotism. You can set some outdoor lights to different modes. So if you get the right lights, you can set it to universal 3-blink SOS signal, which all SAR, no air to. Mm-hmm. Right, anti-check.
I looked into getting a satellite phone because of how close I am to the water. But the storm I mentioned earlier, nothing worked. the ham radios weren't working because the storm was so bad that it was continuing to blow for 24 hours. And so people were underwater, the ones who were lower than me, and the wires were down. The ham radios are having trouble even getting out. And it was like, I think it was 24, 48 hours before the Coast Guard could take off in their helicopters.
Wow.
So, because when they finally did take off, they buzzed to make sure we were still here and hadn't marched away. And a tsunami would do the same thing here.
That's kind of that pinnacle moment there when it's bad enough that nothing is going to work. There's that dark moment.
You wait.
Yeah.
You put down and you wait.
And that's
And
the
don't
most
panic. That's hard to do, easier said than done. But
right. It comes out really easy.
Calm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Zach, go right ahead, sir.
Like I'm thinking about saving up for the ham radios too, because that's a big thing that people have thought about for me. I think that could help a lot of people as well if there's nothing blocking the signal.
This is true. And you can use your same little talking pad to actually transmit. So you could actually.
Yeah.
Does your talking pad need electricity or charging?
Yep. Oh, that's got to be cola. At first I was going, I wonder, and then it was like, wait a minute. I almost recognize that sound.
Sounds like chopping to me.
Thought it was a heartbeat.
That's what there you go.
She just muted herself.
At first I was like, is that
No, I
bumping something?
unmuted myself because when y'all said that I was muted, then I said mute and unmute to see if it made a difference because I heard it too, but I was muted, I thought. And even if I wasn't, I don't know what would have been making that sound.
We got ghosts in the wires. They're
I
having.
wanted to ask, Zach, did you talk to any family or anything in between, like since the last time we did this? Did you get a hold of anybody or talk to anyone?
Awaken.
I'm preparing food right now though.
I like what ⅏⅏⅏ saying about the fire extinguisher people. Provide stickers to put on your front door to alert about your pets. Sometimes they suggest you put it on the window if the pet is kept in a crate, for example, or closed door, that you put the sticker where the pet is, not on the front door, unless the pet's running loose.
Oh, it's like those tot finder stickers where you put them in the window of the kid's room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have them for pets as well.
Well, and I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I will say keep in mind, depending on your location, and we are in 2022 nowadays, so sometimes when you put those stickers, you also tell the other people now what is in there. So
yeah,
that's the drawback.
Fire department.
That's why I say, if you reach out and you establish, because especially like if you're in a rural area, then more than likely you have a volunteer fire department. Well, if you do, then more than likely, once again, there's somebody that's living closer to you that's part of that department. So And as you get to know people in your department, then they get to talking, and it's like, hey, Tom, you're on that side. Hey, I met this lady the other day. Well, then he becomes aware it's direct access. Because like Silver Girl brought up, you take certain events, catastrophic stuff, there can be a moment, and it can stretch from 30 seconds to 30 days to where there's nothing. There's no light except for sunlight. There's no power. There's nobody. There's no communication. That could happen. I mean, and there's that moment. You're just like, well, how can you sustain yourself? How can you be safe until somebody can get to you? And I gotta say, Silver Girl, actually, when you talking to you, it just kind of brought in. I hadn't even thought about that, but when you were saying that if my chair goes dead, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm only going to make it probably about 20 yards before I'm going to be laying in the yard, and so I'm pretty much can't go farther without my chair. So I might need to look at some solar panels for charging. Go ahead, Zach. You got it, buddy.
I have no hand license yet, but I'll try to get it.
There you go.
Be really good for you, Zach.
Zach, they make these little, I don't even know what they're called. They're not Citizens Band, but these are little 22-channel radios. And, of course, you got to have other people that have the radio itself.
He got you full
But you
screen.
don't need a license for these. Now, you need a license. I think there's 2 or 3 channels on this radio that I would need a license to talk on. But, brother, let me tell you something. If I was in trouble, I'm going to waive my own license requirement. So this is it. And I bet you Polarian can tell you what it is. I've forgotten.
Now, quick question for you, Tom. Does that have a talk button on it?
A talk button. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got a call button. I guess you can actually call a specific radio if you need to, if you've got a neighbor that's got them.
Those usually hit out signals when you push it. It does that, and it's kind of like paging.
Okay. But this thing will carry 17 miles over a flat surface. So it's a pretty substantial little radio.
Now, Zach, for you, would you be able to grab that? Something like that with a button?
I didn't know that, Grumpy. That's good. That's good to know. Grumpy Acres says it's legal for anybody to use a ham radio during an emergency.
What you got, Zach?
I can hold down buttons with my toe if I need to.
Okay. That might be something maybe looking at those there, Zach, so that you got to start practicing with it. So it's kind of like have it laying over there on the thing and then go, oh, okay, I need it. Well, then practice kind of what you would do, how you would just kind of grab that real quick, and then how you could send a signal type thing, and kind of get used to repetition, get some of that memory muscle.
That's what I keep saying a lot of. It's practicing stuff that doesn't have to do on a daily. But I don't keep asking the same thing. But I remember when Ghetto was on here, he said, to talk to your dad, you could tell him you were worried about any natural disaster or emergency situation and have the conversation kind of with your dad if you haven't. And I just wondered if you ever did, because I think that's important that, you and your dad be on the same page and everything, so he knows where your head's at and what you're worried about. And you might be able to help more than any of us could just by being right there with you, But like I said, I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse. I sort of said last time I talked, I just hope that you will have that conversation when you get it.
I think it's also a really good idea to have an extra person, Zach. Another person designated If your dad can't get to you, who else is it you're going to talk to that is going to be willing to start out for you, to find you, make sure you're all right, or take you someplace else? Not only with your dad do you need to make these arrangements, but I really believe you need an extra person. Because who knows? Is your dad going to be able to get to you?
Did you have that? Have you talked to him yet, any Zach? Kind of, sort of.
A little bit.
Yeah, because that'll be your first response, you know, and then you want to have the thing, like if he isn't home at the time, how you could get to him the quickest and notify him, and then somebody else that's, because you can always have the best in played plans, but it takes that one time when it's like, well, I went down to get a tire fixed and it was just there. That was that 10-minute window when something happened, and it never hurts to plan.
Practical to get acquainted with neighbors. Sometimes that's a good idea. Sometimes it's not. You know,
that's true.
What you got, buddy?
I have a sister close that can help me out too.
I missed the first part.
I completely missed it, Zach.
I have a sister close that can help me out too.
Oh, that's right, your sister's close.
That's good, but like Cola says, you need the conversation. They know you are.
She's good. You've talked with your sister. I think it's.
I definitely will have to talk.
You must, man. Don't put it off. Don't be shy about it. I'm curious about your hesitation, but we won't get into that right now. But because you never know, man. It may be tomorrow that you need this. So do that for us.
I tell you, let me say this, Zach. 9 times out of 10, the people that love you, even though they don't want you to be scared and that kind of thing, and we all understand that. None of us want each other to be scared. Once you sit down and talk to them, they're going to be thankful, even if they never, ever use it, which is what we all hope and pray. They still will be thankful that you trusted them to listen to you, and that you came to them because you trusted them. And that is really, remember that they want it too. They just don't know it yet.
Right.
Also,
hey, Zach, Wakened actually had a question and said, Zach, do you use a wheelchair? So you have an assist chair?
I recall that he ran it through a water sprinkler and it don't work anymore. I'm just teasing you, Zach. That's a story from a long time ago.
I was going to say, like, some of your people probably overlap, so you could probably call one person. It could kind of be like an operator, you know, 1 or 2 people, and they're going to call everybody that they know to reach for you, and then those people will call other people. And so if you could know one common denominator that knows a lot, you could have, like, you know, one person calling out everybody, or 2 people calling out everybody, so you don't have to make so many calls. And between all of your people, somebody's going to get something done. I'd like to think. I lost my operator. That was my grandmother. Somebody in the family needed something, they call my grandmother. She'd call every aunt, uncle, cousin, next door neighbor, and somebody would solve your problem by the end of her outreach. And it's like, you didn't need to call everybody. You call one person and she'd handle it. Man, I miss
the original network. Yep.
Yeah, I miss her.
I have that network set up for my aide to call one person to tell them I'm croaked. And then that takes care of everybody else.
Well, and Zach, you know, you're doing mobile apps and stuff, and like Grumpy pointed out, you know, during like events, cell phone coverage will be the last thing that goes, you know. So the only other major thing would be a storm. Well, those knock it down, and so then that's when everything's gone. But since you do this mobile app and you're kind of real fluent with that, maybe if you did just a small app where you could, and even if you don't release it to nobody but yourself, but you have a list of people and you kind of have a couple of messages already pre-done and you have them selected. So all you got to do is go boom, and it's going to auto send to those people.
Excellent idea.
Yeah, that's great.
Because you're kind of handy with that code. He's a slick weasel there. Getting all next thing you know, you're just like going bam. 12 people instantly know.
I have a manual wheelchair if I need, and it folds up too.
That's what I've got. Do you have one, Rescue? Do you have a manual chair?
Nope.
You might want to look into it because nobody's going to move that hub around.
The problem, I never got one because I was offered one and I laughed and went, yeah, I think about the only place I could use that would be in my house, because the minute I get to the end of that ramp, them little thin wheels are fixing to go whoop.
Right into the sand.
Because I'm just, it's that rural. I got White Shell Rock and I got pea gravel road and just get
I got a dirt road and a dirt driveway.
Matter of fact, my hover round, like now that it rained, oh no, I won't be able to go out in the yard for probably about 4 or 5 days. It'll have to get firm, especially with them batteries. Boy, it don't take long for it to just go whoop.
Yeah.
Bug Out, actually, his brother has this cool thing. I swear, if I had ran into that before I got the hover round, I'd have probably went for the hover round because it's a chair, but it's got tracks.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, there we go. See, this is what I need. I need the country version of a wheelchair. This I can get now. I could go fishing with this.
But it's always good to have the manual chair, because if somebody comes and gets you, they can roll you out as far as they can go. Then they can pick you up under your arms and carry you out. But once they get you to solid ground again, they're going to need to put you in something.
Yep.
True.
Well, and hey, you because when you brought that up about the slider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, when you were talking about that ground roller slider type deal, I thought, that's how, because you can do that like in truck beds. I don't know how many loads I've emptied that way. And it's the same principle.
The toboggan works really, really well because it will go over in the plastic toboggan because there's no wheels. It just is the plastic on the bottom, and it will slide over anything. Anybody can pull you. And it'll go through mud, dirt, gravel, and everything else. It'll do the sand on the beach. It'll do anything.
Go ahead, Zach.
And honestly, I know I have 2 big brothers within 2 hours from me, and they have been preparing because they understand what could happen.
There you go.
Excellent.
That's what I needed to know to put us at ease now, Zach. Now I know I feel a little better. Got 2 brothers within range, and it's like, there we go. Now, so what you ought to do, I would suggest maybe is then set with them, at least them 2, on like that little radio like Tom has, some kind of communication, so that way you get both of them. You can just still do dad and sister, but at least have 2 that are like, okay, you get it. So let me at least get direct contact with people that directly get it.
Independent Mary is saying that there's 2 apps that is it looks like what she's saying is that it's buy and give and trade between individual people. Yeah.
Okay. If anyone isn't familiar with the Offer Up app or Buy Nothing on Facebook app coming soon, please check them out. Great ways to get and give things locally. Just be very careful. I'm not diminishing anything Indy's saying, but just be careful, depending on your area.
Do you see Grumpy's post right above Indy's?
Let's see. Grumpy said, I say we all pitch in and buy Zach a Terminator suit with flamethrowers and tasers. Then he can kick ass and take names at the end of the world. There we go.
Do I know anyone that lives near you, Zach? It just occurred to me, if I didn't hear from you in like a day or 2, I wouldn't know who to call, other than to call someone to worry them.
That's where most of us are, Cola.
I can't believe that. I just now thought of that. I'm kind of dingy sometimes.
I'd holler at Virginia Roots is who I'd holler at. But I haven't asked if she has anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if Zach was unreachable, about the only thing I'd know to do that's close to him would be George Behizzy. If anybody know who that is, because he's a guy that, and he lives in Colorado, and so it'd be like,
Well, like for anybody that keeps in regular contact, like if I didn't hear from Zach for like 2 days, I'd probably start freaking out. You know? So, but then I wouldn't know what to do about it. And then I'm
Right.
sure he keeps regular touch with other people too that would probably feel the same way, and they wouldn't know what to do.
blowing that phone up.
Because he won't do, you know, if I didn't hear from him in 2 days, first thing I'm gonna do is say, hey, what's wrong? Are you mad at me? And then he's gonna respond back like quickly. So
Oh, can you imagine the response when one person talks to another person? They go, yeah, I hadn't got an answer either. And all of a sudden the third person goes, yeah, I haven't got a response either. And then it's kind of like, oh, yeah.
Now this ain't right. Yeah.
It's going south real fast.
Do we call the police, give him his cell phone number, and say, find him?
Find him. Goes
here
that.
we go. His answer to this.
Well, the closest person to me that you know is Nicole DD, which is 6.5 hours away.
Dang. That's far.
Like I said, call his cell phone number and tell him to go find him.
I would say
I'm like,
if you want Zach,
that's the
give
last people I ever want to call. I know that's probably backwards, but
your two
I always
brothers my number if you want.
I come from the school of thought that, well, don't call them unless you have to. You might call them and then end up they get you. That's the kind of way. That's the way I was taught, which is so wrong. But it has happened that way to certain people in certain places.
It helps when you have cops and family. You kind of get around it that way.
Right.
Oh, I'm not closer, Ron. Ron's like, rescue might be closer. Not me. Hell, it'd take me 6 hours just to get to the state line. Just to leave Texas, much less get to Colorado.
Can you hear Abe snoring? Oh, good.
I'm going to step away for just a minute. I'll be right back.
Oh, and I forgot. You guys know someone closer. Ricky Four Corners report.
And what did you say? You're about 75 miles from Four Corners?
I'm 45 minutes away from the actual Four Corners.
Okay.
So a suggestion from me, I don't know who necessarily, but maybe your sister or your dad or something, since they're your closest contacts, maybe somebody else that keeps in regular contact with you, have them have that so that so one of us could call the other and say, hey, if we do get in that situation, someone's not heard from you in 3 days, one designated person could say, well, I'll call his sister, I'll call his dad or whatever, or text, and that way everybody okay. I don't think that'll come up. I don't, and you know, it would be probably an emergency if none of
the other here is, Zach, that if something happens, you better be getting in touch with somebody in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
and let us
Yeah.
know you're all right.
Yeah, we can send that SOS out to everybody.
Well, you know, this could happen to any of us. It just hit me. My wife left Tuesday morning. I ain't seen a soul since then. So, you know, I could have had a stroke Tuesday afternoon and laid here till now. Nobody would have known.
What about your wife?
So she's gone. So it could happen to anybody, you know. Not gone forever, Cola.
Oh, there she is.
My camera just go off. It does that. So I'm out of camera, but I'll stay on verbal. I just can't. I need to get with somebody who knows what they're doing to figure out why it does that. But at least it wasn't being a strobe tonight. Sometimes it's like a strobe and then it goes haywire and cuts itself off.
I'm back. Hey, Zach, did you see what Grumpy had up? Go ahead, Zach.
That's Ricky's number. He's 2 hours away from me.
Right on. Cool beans.
Yeah, I just feel like that's still too far. Like somebody that could get to you in 5-10 minutes and make sure you're okay quickly, you know. 2 hours. And we'll, not to say anything against anybody, but can we get him to drop everything and rush to you, you know? But somebody that lives 10-15 minutes away, it's not that big a deal to just run over and make sure you're okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Let's say that's Grumpy has a thing, and he said, it says as far as comms, there's no single solution. They should be layered. You should be able to communicate with an earshot all the way to miles, hundreds of miles away under multiple circumstances. And that's where that your clicker to right outside the door to all the way to your ham radio, to your cell phone, your little mobile app we were talking about. Because if it is just like if you got storming going on, then get that out so that gets people aware and different ways depending on the solution. And the idea is to start thinking. That's to start having your thought process where you always look for a way that you can make this a little bit better and easier. You know, but I'm with Cola, kind of finding somebody, if you reach out to your sister or your dad and, you know, find somebody you're comfortable with and give out that number and kind of somebody, because especially since we have kind of a big community kind of, and everybody's going to be concerned about you.
Zach, are you acquainted with any of your neighbors? I mean, other than that one?
Made him laugh, I know that. He's probably thinking, fuck no, they're Biden supporters.
The way that just laugh came out, it was, I can only imagine.
I mean, because that's, you know, that's your bread and butter, for lack of a better term, is a neighbor. I know here in this little town, we're fortunate. We can depend on each other. And if you can make it to the front porch, you know, you can raise one of them.
Well, no, I was going to say, but just thing came where there was a lady was in a situation and she went to the neighbors to make the call, you know, so you never know what situation might come up.
Right.
That's what we did last week, Ron. We talked about kind of a 10-day self-sufficient where you kind of maintain for 10 days. Ron had said, what next? What about self-prepping for a day or two? What if you can't get a hold of anyone, food, water, etc.? And that's, we kind of talked different ways about a 10-day period last week, Ron. Kind of how he's got access to food, water. You got something, Zach?
That one neighbor, the judge actually made Dad sign a no harassment order.
Wow. Is that the only close neighbor you've got then? I kind of had the idea you lived in an area where there were several neighbors. And you don't need to answer that. I didn't mean to get all personal and everything. Yeah, I knew about that one guy.
Only two.
Me too.
Zach, may I show my show and tell before I lose camera again? Rescue just mentioned getting prepped for things, and I think about doing things in a small way. And this, where's the camera? That's called Highlight, and it's an electrolyte replacement thing, and it's, as you can tell, it's full bottle almost. It also is usable on pets. Now, most vets, including the Oregon Vet School, doesn't know anything about it, but they finally decided I could do it. And I'm using it on Ace, and it improved. He's on Lasix for congestive heart failure. I use it. He uses it. It makes a huge difference. You use a drop or two. That's it. So this would last it's also good for babies' color. It would last a very long time in this size. You would go a month, 2 months, 3 months with this. And this is all you would need for electrolytes. One bottle. Then I'll put the link in on YouTube. And then the other thing is this. I don't know that it's called Balance. I'll put this link in there too. It's also a food supplement in liquid form. And these are not expensive at all. The Highlight's a little spendy, but this one is not. And you can, if you had one of these 3 times a day, you probably would be fine for several days. So if you bought the little box that they have of all the different varieties, you would be able to last for a little while just on this alone. Then you would have your highlights. The other thing I brought to show is this. These fit over your glasses, and they have headlights on them, as you can see. They're also magnifying glasses so that you can read those little bottles in the dark. And you're not supposed to walk with them, but I don't walk, so what the heck? But you can also set them up higher. I keep pushing the button and turning them off. And you don't have to even use the lights on them. You can just turn them. Now I couldn't push the button to save my soul. There it is. You can just use them as magnifying glasses. And one of the things I thought of was with the people who know what they're doing, that does not include me. If you had smoke or wires that were bare and you needed to fix them to keep them from burning down the house, or setting something on fire or turning your power out, you might could benefit in the dark with these kinds of glasses, especially since they're magnifiers. I've used them for things I didn't expect to ever use them for. I bought them to do jewelry. I make jewelry, and I bought them for that purpose. And I know they have the ones that you can wear on your head, but with the like that. But this find aspect of this works really, really well for just about, yep.
And then you got the red.
That's what, yeah, I've seen a radio that does that. Yeah. But it's just one of those little things that if you were going to be, the other thing is if you wanted to lay low, you didn't want the bad people's outside to be finding you, you could just use these for lights to get around in the house, and so you don't fall in holes and trip over things, and kind of you're ambulatory. And I have driven through the house with these in my wheelchair. I haven't hit anything more when I'm driving any other time. So you shouldn't walk in them. I agree with that. But those three things are the balance and the electrolytes, because electrolytes will make you feel better. If you're not getting the proper food, proper water, proper everything, you're gonna need electrolytes. If you are eating stuff that makes you have the runs, or throw up, you're going to need electrolytes. That's the only way around it. And these are just the ones I found. I wanted something for the dog, and he's 12 pounds, and the vets finally decided that 2 drops to a quart of water for him at 12 pounds. So, but I like having one bottle that'll do me and him.
Good idea. Yeah.
And I'll put the links in the links I think that I picked up are just Amazon, because I could find them there faster. But you can find them there and then go find them elsewhere if you don't want to buy them from Amazon.
There you go. Hey, Anti-Adjack had a thing about satellite locators are set up so anyone can easily operate them and are connected to emergency services worldwide, from down the street to Coast Guard in the middle of the oceans. So there are those too. If you're really, want to get you can broadcast to everybody when you pull that alarm on that EPIRB. That EPIRB's going everywhere to every worldwide emergency services, fixing to be going off with a GPS location to where the finger's going off. So that is an option.
Oh, one more thing. I'm going to put another link. There is a YouTube lady who just did, after being asked, a top 100 items to vanish from the shelves after a national emergency. Many of them common, but a lot of them were overlooked. I never thought of half of the ones that she mentioned. So it might be something you want to look at later. I'm sure that real preppers thought of them, but I didn't. That's it, Zach.
Ah, cute little baby. There you go. That's Miles what it's all about.
He's learned to clap finally.
Is he beginning to walk, Carla?
Not yet, no. Just
Go ahead, Zach.
about to be 8 months.
He looks like he's ready, though.
Zach's got something.
Yeah, he's
Here's
getting
my
ready.
second question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
To help diabetics, what kind of supplies should they stock up on? Well,
Peanut butter.
just watch the GIF label.
Whatever medicines that they take on a regular, insulin or whatever they need for their medicine.
They can get it ahead of time, yes, but some prescription programs do not permit you to get it in advance more than a week or two for vacations, and that's it. Digital Hawk says gummy bears, Jack.
I don't know. So, because if you needed sugar to bring it up, then that's easy enough. You could eat something, but I think, maybe most of your medicine is to keep it suppressed. And so I wonder, is there natural stuff that you can, or a way that you can naturally do it? Me, I just cut out all the crap, so I just kind of stopped when I stopped putting it in. But if you are already at that level, you eat a candy bar to get your boost. Well, is there something you can do then to bring it down when you already have too much?
Right. I can't really help there. I'm blessed not to be diabetic, and fortunately, nobody in my family is now. And I just haven't thought about that too much.
Okay, I just brought up a website that what I searched for was natural alternatives to insulin. And this website is not wanting to come up, so I'll go to the next one.
Digital Hawk is saying salt with a question mark. I don't know the salt. I'm with you, Tom, though I'm not diabetic, so I knew I was borderline. I had to poke myself, and I finally said, to hell with that shit. So I cut it all out. And now I use ice cream to take a nap.
The other thing is there's a difference between type 1 and type 2.
True.
And in this article, it's also different here, too. Let me find another one. I don't like this. I don't
Anybody
like
in chat? Do you got any suggestions in chat on something that like you could naturally bring your sugar levels down? That'd be a natural replacement for like insulin or similar. That's where we're kind of trying to kick that idea around to give people ideas.
that one. Is I've got diabetes on both sides of my family, but I've never heard them talk about anything like this, of course. They keep saying, these articles I was seeing are saying berberine is a substance found in many natural supplements, including oregano, grape, golden seal, and Chinese gold thread. But and cinnamon is another thing. That's the third time I've seen cinnamon. And of course, to get rid of the real sugar. Green tea, that's another one. And you could get those. I think that needs more research.
Yeah, that's going to be some kind of, probably have to kind of look around, Zach, and maybe find people that are kind of working with that directly, and anybody researching and comes up with some research and stuff, then they'd be able to put that in, because that'd be probably, and that would be something that they would want to get an understanding of, you know.
Lemons and limes can be taken 30 minutes before meals to prevent blood sugar from rising after the meal. That I've actually used, and that works.
That is, okay.
Because my blood sugar stays like it's supposed to, except for after meals, and then it goes too high. So I just drink a squirt of lemon and a squirt of lime in a shot glass and swallow it.
Terry Christ says exercise will bring down sugar levels.
That's true too.
So,
but a lot of the physically challenged can't do the exercising.
This is true. Go ahead, Zach. What you got?
I just want to cover the whole spectrum of unique abilities so that we all are covered.
There you go. It never hurts to think.
One of the things that I thought of is that you're going to, Zach, you're not on meds, but are you allergic to anything?
Only ranch dressing, dad nabbit.
Ranch dressing. So that would be something then, the cards that we talked about, like with the sleeves and on the ring for some key words to be able to talk to people that can't talk, that would be something that you would want to put. And while it doesn't sound like, well, who the hell is going to give you ranch? It's not so much giving you ranch as it is, it might clue people in that are going to be people that are going to want to know. We're going to look at what's involved in ranch and then
One of the
avoid those
ingredients in it.
components. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because that's just a word for a bunch of stuff in a bowl.
One of the things I did is I have everything that I'm allergic to and all my medications listed, and they go in a plastic bag with me if I go to the hospital. They would also go with, and they're with me if I were to, I would put them in a baggie and hang them over my neck, because in an emergency, the hospitals are going to be full. Doctors are going to be sparse. They're going to be going like crazy. They shoot me with penicillin, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So
It's tetanus for me.
in general need to know that they may not be the ones that are going to be physically able to tell the doctor in an ER or in the shift that they are allergic to something, not to give it to them. You need to have it written down.
Well, that's why, because we had talked last week about the cards when he has to talk to people that even he can't have the device, he could just show them. Well, if that's one of the first ones, and because there is something wrong, so you know you're dealing with something medical, that's the first one, you know.
But if he's not able to show them, then what?
Well, I mean, hopefully that ring with that stuff is there. That's
Right.
That's when I would fly. I mean, to get real, I guess technical, and I had to do that. I would take that plastic sleeve and I would actually have red borders around it, because red is a good signal for an emergency thing. And then I would put allergy would be an overlay word, because those are going to be the two things that anybody that is familiar with stuff that's responding to the first aid or some kind of medical, they're going to notice that. They're going to look, see allergy, and step with that. Go ahead, Zach.
Like I can have the dry powdered ranch, but not the dressing.
Okay, so
That's weird.
so then there's something in the ingredients of the liquefied version that triggers your allergy.
Have you compared the ingredients in the two to see what it is?
You know, not putting more on your plate, brother, by any means, but it might be worth something to kind of look into then and start kind of trying to actually specify what that is that you're actually allergic to, because it's kind of like everything else on the shelf. You see 1,000 different names, but only about 500 ingredients. It's like they're so interlapped and overmingled for blending.
Mm-hmm.
Find that one thing.
And it could be in something else. It could cause you major problems.
Well, there's actually on the being the Debbie Downer that apparently I am tonight. But so if you go to eat, you know, you end up in a situation, you get taken somewhere, somebody has MRE, they have some kind of food, and they're like, here, you need this. Well, it's not ranch. You don't think nothing about it, but you eat it. All of a sudden you're having a reaction. Well, people don't even connect those dots. Guess what you're going to do the second day while you're feeling rough? You're going to be eating more of that. That could turn into a bad scenario. Yep. So knowing that's what you are actually allergic to would be very beneficial.
Sharon, talking about the bracelets that you can wear, anklets, bracelets, and necklaces. They have them for DNR, but they also have them for allergies.
Good old things.
They have ones I've seen they do have ones that have penicillin on it. They don't have the ones that would contain out the other things I'm allergic to. But yeah, they're good. You don't take them off.
No.
They know what.
Actually, I would like to say too, don't get these fancy foo-ha-ha ones, because then they get overlooked as it's just decoration. Go ahead and stick with the good old little chain silver where it looks like it's a tag, because that's what it's supposed to. It needs to get attention.
Yeah.
They usually have a red X on a white X on a red background.
Yeah. And if you get the chrome ones, then they'll have the big red cross, and everything will be nice and etched in. And it just, that's one thing I saw start, I don't know, it's been a while, over a decade, but they started coming up with all the little designer ones. And it's like, no, you don't need that to look like some custom watch. Nobody's going to care then. Let's see. Okay, so Zach's got, for people who need help preparing food, etc., should they get pre-packaged food, containers of beverages, so it's easier on them? Example, MREs. And I'll just throw my 2 cents in real quick. If you get MREs, Chili Mac is the best MRE. So other than that, they all suck. So.
When you think about beverages, stay with water and store water under your bed, under your TV, whatever.
Keep it out of direct sunlight.
Yeah. But just go with water. Go with bottled water. Make your own, whatever, but just put water back. For
It
you.
won't go bad, and it's the perfect thing for you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Especially if it's bottled water, not water out of some of our taps.
And these prepackaged foods, a lot of times all you need to prepare them is water.
Right.
I've got all this stuff for 25 years, and it's set up. So really all you need is sometimes boiling water. But, it's not the best meal you're ever going to eat, but it'll keep you from starving.
These eggs are really good that I use, that I have. They're the ones that all the Patriots with the big black buckets. I'm blanking on the name of them, but
4 Patriots.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
The eggs and the pancakes are really, really good. The pancakes are to die for.
I would say that's, to me, now here's damn Debbie Downer syndrome tonight, I guess. So that's on the glorified side to me. But then I look at it, in all honesty, you need to pick you a food that you're tolerable with, that's low cost, easy to prepare, and just go ahead and grab a case or 2 of that, because then that becomes sustainable for a week or something. Nobody said you're going to like this. Nobody said this is going to be like the banquet on the Barbie type shit. But it's like if you're into like the little Chili Mac container things that you can just pop a top, stick it in the microwave, and then go ahead and buy 2 cases of those. And then now when the shit hits the fan moment, hey, because there'll be other shit to worry about at that point. So to sit down and have the 5-course, I'm not knocking those by any way. So I'm not trying to go that, but it just, I'm also kind of one of them people. It's like there comes moments in life when it becomes rough enough. And you know what? If all you got is that big old foot-long piece of jerky, you learn to just kind of bite that off, tuck it away, and gnaw on that bad boy and just enjoy the moment. You do what you got to do. So always keep that in mind. So don't try to overthink things. I mean, if you can, like if you can afford it and it's no big deal, then order you a case of those meals and stuff. But if you are shaving dollars, don't try to shoot so big. Go ahead and just grab you a damn, we can make fun of ramen noodles and shit, but at some point, if that's all there is on the plate, then there you go, so
you won't starve.
That's it. That's the idea.
Annie and Jack, I don't know how to say the name, but that's right. That's what he's talking about, the freeze dried. With the
healthy freeze dried that only need to add water, and they're also super light if they have to go mobile at all.
Yep.
Yeah, those that, and you can do, from what I understand, cola. Have you done that yet?
I haven't freeze dried something yet.
Okay.
But seen the packages. You can buy the big packages of it, or 2-week supplies and things. I was thinking, like we were talking, like I can go get an example because my daughter's lazy, but those little noodles that are already cooked, and you just tear the package open, and then the powdered cheese, like they make it the Augustin Farms kind that lasts for 10 years or 20 years or however long, and it's a big can, so you could make tons of cheese sauce to go with those noodles. That's what I've been doing, is getting the cheese sauce for all my plain noodles, the dry noodles. Of course, I don't get them cooked already because you can get a better deal on them for a long term. But if I had to, I would.
I think, well, my wife got something. It's like and it's a soup, but it's, kind of a frothy, but it's just in a damn pack. But you tear it open and you pour it in the bowl, and then you add a little water and you stir it up and heat it up.
And you can eat it cold.
Yeah. I mean, because the idea when things are like that is you just need to survive. What you got, brother?
Like I can get water and heat food if I need.
Yeah. Zach can do a microwave. He just can't do a stove.
And don't forget things like Vienna sausages and Spam and
Ravioli.
But
I prep some ravioli.
Zach, is there a spot like in the kitchen? Maybe look at finding a spot where you could put a hanger maybe to help you. And what I was thinking was, because I was thinking I'm trying to still work on some kind of thing you can put in your hand, but because since I do so many of my chicken noodle soups, I'm becoming I'm an artesian at this shit nowadays. But I kind of got to playing around with that little finger ring, and I know sometimes they're a little pain in the ass because they've been pressed down in. And so you kind of got a wedge, and I'll have to poke that thing, and sometimes it pop, 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 and then it finally opens. Well, you had me thinking about you, brother. So I've been sitting there going, if he's getting some kind of canned soup and he ends up with something like that. So I've been trying to think of a way for you to hook that little ring easier to where you could just like even snag it and then kind of almost like the bottle top. Remember when we were all young, Tom and Silver Girl, you just walk up and go pop and pop the top off. Well, it's something similar, only to grab that little finger thing for him and then just be able to rip that off. And Wingnut being in there reminded me, I know he did a little video, and when seeing him reminded me, he was actually taking water bottles, and instead of throwing them away, he was salvaging the different drink bottles and cleaning them and everything. But then he was putting rice and beans and storing rice and beans in those containers, because then that could be like a serving. That doesn't really address Zach's per se, but when I saw him, I thought, oh yeah, that was a thing to kind of handy because it keeps from having plastic floating around too.
People don't think about those heavy plastic containers, and my wife says I have a problem, but I got trash bags out in my shop just full of empty Benefiber jars. That's such a good heavy plastic, and they seal. It's white plastic, so the light doesn't get in to spoil stuff. And I don't know. I can't throw stuff like that away because
I just got a Berkey, is that what it's called? And I'm taking previous water bottles and putting the good water in them and stacking them. And I'm going to end up, after I get enough stacked so that I feel comfortable that I got water, I'm going to start using them to drink instead of buying new water.
There you go.
So girl,
What you got, Zach?
And see, I have been thinking about soups since last Friday. I can use funnels to get them in my cups too, since I can't really use a straw.
There you go.
Silver Girl, you were saying I do the same thing with the water. Like I used my old wine bottles and I used some of my old water bottles. But I was wondering, at first I was boiling it and filtering it, and everybody said, no, don't do that. Store it just how it comes out of the tap, which is, I went back and redid all of them, which is a lot. How long does that stay good before it gets stagnant?
My understanding is 5 years.
Without doing anything to it but putting it in there.
You just put it back into the bottle and it stays good. I actually have ordered some glass ones that I'm more comfortable with using the glass than I am the plastic, and I'm going to use those.
Yeah, that's where those wine bottles I had were glass, and it was really, that's the one bad thing about quitting drinking. Is that It sounds silly, but I'd have a good steady flow of those glass bottles coming in, one a week or so. Now I don't have them. I got a good little surplus of water in the ones that I did drink out of. I'm glad I saved those.
Hey,
Well,
Zach.
they have
I
some
was,
wine bottles that have a Papillon on the front of it, which is what Ace is. So I've got his water in the Papillon wine bottles.
hey, Zach, I was going to read this up in chat. Cat 1849, they're about 11 minutes behind apparently, but they were bringing up the diabetes thing, and they said for high sugar diabetes, anything very high in protein will help bring the levels down. I have to carry sugar packets with me because mine goes low. And then that's when they said they were 11 minutes behind. Thank you for doing this.
Peanut.
Just not watch the GIF labels.
I don't do GIF.
Which I'll say Lucky Dame put up some other stuff. So anybody that has a link for Lucky Dames, Zach doesn't mind it being dropped. She has a couple of little things that she had on her community thing with some other recalls with some other products.
Colin, you got me thinking. I'm going to research.
He loves when I got my phone set up, he knows what's up. He's like, hey, I want to say hi. I pick him up to see him, and he's like, wants to play with the phone.
Oh, hi, sweetie. You are gorgeous.
That's your buddy, ain't it?
Oh, how beautiful.
He's not going to look now. He was clapping earlier. That's just brand new. All right, Stinker.
Oh, he's so adorable.
He hardly ever cries, but Des don't think he's feeling good. Oh,
That's Bonnie has a good thing. She says I keep bottles of water in the freezer in case electricity goes out too. And yeah, that's actually a handy thing you can do if you go camping or you go fishing or something. Instead of buying all the bags of ice to keep your drinks cool, if you'll just freeze a few water bottles and then put them down in your cooler, it'll keep your stuff cool.
And then you have drinking water as they melt.
Yeah. Giggle says, Silver Girl, hello, happy to see you on panel with Zach.
But yeah, Silver Girl, my thought is just every few months or so, go back through and do them one by one. Because I'm not sure how long they stay good till they stagnate. So something I was thinking was to get those little circle stickers that have the different colors and things.
Yeah.
I thought maybe do some kind of color coding system with those, like when I change, so that way I don't feel like doing, say, all 20 or 40 bottles, however many there are at once. Do a couple each day, and okay, now all the new ones I've just done, I'll put a blue tab on,
Right.
and then next day another blue one, so they're all blue again, and then a couple months later change them to a different color. Well, this is my plans. I just about gone through them all and switched them from boiled and filtered water into just tap water, because I had done all these steps. Everybody says, no, well, you boil the water when you're ready to drink it, and you filter it right before you drink it as well. You don't do that first because the chemicals in the water preserve it or whatever. But also after a certain set amount of time, they can stagnate. Now, a good friend of mine was talking to me about gallon drums, like 50-gallon drums and things, and told me they make tablets that you can put in your water you can put in there, and it'll last you for 10 years and things. But as I said, I've been using these wine bottles and single-serving water bottles, and the tablets he's talking about is something like 50 gallons or 5 gallons at once. And I don't know if there's a way to do those little individual, like maybe a dropper or whatever, but I just get really apprehensive about that kind of thing. Like, I just rather switch the water out than do some kind of chemical thing to it almost.
At least do that. Yeah. I'm going to go back and double check and do some more research on it. But I'm not comfortable using the plastic. I'm just not.
No, plastic wouldn't be good. I would not for long term, like a storage thing, because that plastic's going to start leaching stuff into that water. And that's why you don't ever want it in direct sunlight, because you can take a bottle of water right out of the store and put it in your car in the back window, and then within a week, that's contaminated water. Bad. Hey, Auntie Jack brought up a good point because said in addition to the freeze-dried, prepackaged breakfasts and others that just add water should be kept right by their water, and e.g. the bed. So if they lose mobility, they can access it. So, like if you were bedridden or mobility is an issue, then having kind of at least a 6-pack of water or something within that you can just roll over to reach, and then at least some food, something to pour in for anybody that listens, or some just kind of little things, you know. It's just, and I will say one thing I want, because while they were talking about water too, Zach, is when, you know, we talk about the soup and stuff, but be sure and always label your stuff, Sharpie marker or something, so you'll know the date of stuff, and then try to, if it's kind of been a while and nothing's happened, and it's like, oh, you know, I've had that soup for a couple of months, then go ahead and bust you open a can or two of those and pull that other stuff forward. And rotating stock is very important for healthiness too.
Once you've built up a supply, you really should be, you know, eating it like normal and replenishing
from the back.
That's
then
where
you
I'm about
naturally
at.
rotate.
I mean, I don't have a lot. I have most of the things that I prepped are things I use on a regular basis. Like, I don't know. I've got silly things. Sorry, I mean, I've got the thing on. Like, just different things that I use all the time. Like, I've got a bunch of tomato sauce and crushed tomatoes and diced tomatoes and all my Miracle Whip and mayonnaise and mustard and ketchup, and I'm to the point now where when I buy it, you know, I'm starting to use it all and just start to rotate it. But I don't have a great lot of anything really. I just have multiples of the things I use the most. So I'm starting to feel more comfortable than I did, say, a year ago. But I'd still like to be way further ahead than I am. I feel like I'd make it 6 months to a year, even if I was eating powdered food at the end of it. You know, I'd still think I'd survive.
One of the other things is we keep talking about for people that have mobility issues, but the reality is during an emergency, you never know when a person that could run 10 miles is going to not be able to walk because they fell down and broke their leg.
Right.
So people need to be storing things where they can get to them even if they can't walk there. Putting things in a basement that you have to go down and up steps for sounds great. Especially if there's 4 or 5 of you in the house, so at least one of you could do it. But if you're alone, that makes no sense, because the likelihood that you would stay 100% healthy for any significant period of time, if there was a major disaster, a tsunami, an earthquake, a tornado, hurricane, any of those things, with an whatever.
Crazy administration.
Yeah. Probably are dealing with other people that are going to be harmful. And power outages and like that, you're not likely to end up, initially I hope and pray that we're not going to end up being drug out by our hair. And I keep telling people they're not going to drag me out. They'll just throw me back in. They don't want me. They'll take the good ones first.
Right.
But the healthy people need to realize that some of us, even though we start out in a really bad place, the really healthy ones may end up in the same spot if they break a leg, hurt an arm, get cut somehow. You may end up not being able to go up and down those steps either.
Oh, well, the disaster could happen to you in the middle of the disaster that's happening to everybody else. That happens all the time. I did want to bring up one thing, Zach, because have you, and so I'm just going to say it direct, so just don't take it as bossy as it might sound, but have you actually sat there and like got up and said, timer type style, going, okay, power's out, shit just hit the fan, I want to get to the kitchen, and kind of got your route and know exactly have you kind of prepared on what you can get to stuff, like click, because it's, you know, and that sounds goofy to a lot of people, and doing the fire thing, and you try to talk to people and they're it's like, okay, just so you understand how all this works, we do what we do based off of memory muscle. So when you pick up that coffee cup and I can strut out to the truck while I drink coffee without drinking it. Well, that didn't just happen overnight. It's because you'd sit there holding that coffee cup, swinging it to your mouth for so long, you got it comfortable with it. So you got to do things so that way when the shit is hitting the fan and there's a lot of noise and a lot of flashy things going on, that your brain says, no, dummy, do this, this, and this right now.
Right.
That's the importance of memory muscle.
I did a thing that everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I put a table in front of the two windows in my bedroom. I can stand up enough to set my butt on that table. I would not be able to crawl out the window from my chair, but I can set my butt on that window and slide my butt one way or the other. And get my feet out first, and I'm going to fall on my butt, but that's all right, it's padded.
Well, then people keep in mind that, because I don't know how many homes you go to and they have a plan and you're talking to them and, oh man, they go over to this drawer and they pull it out. And then you kind of go, okay, you talk to them for a few minutes and kind of work this little setup after about 30 minutes, because you kind of run into this within the first 10 minutes. So you close that book, you start diverting the talk to something else, and then you immediately pop out a question on, okay, so what are you going to do when that stove just caught fire because you were cooking and you forgot about that grease and you're in the bathroom? So what's that? Oh, well, I'm going to see. You had it written down what you were going to do and you're already hem-hawing, because it's easy to sit and kind of go, well, I'm going to do this. I'll do this. But to remember what you're going to do when it's time, there's the trick. What you got, Zach?
And I have a one-story house, thank goodness. So if I need to get out quick, I can.
Okay.
Think about getting out the window in your bedroom, because if there's a fire in the rest of the house, you're going out your window.
Quick
And
as
make sure that whatever's outside your window is not something that's going to go up your butt.
Zach was he was in mid-stride of fixing the type. Did you notice that? He just stopped and was like, stuck with it.
I would out the second story window. Okay. Luckily, I landed in some forsythia bushes, and my shoulders caught me and kept me from banging my head on the ground. But you got to know what's under the window.
True.
And you know, if my father had thrown me out butt first, those things would have hurt going up. They went out head first, and my shoulders caught me. But I made sure that there was a nice, beautiful little tree growing outside my window. It's now gone. Because if I've got to go out that window, I'm not going to land on my feet, or maybe a second, but I'm not going to stand on them. So I made sure I could fall down and not get anything up my butt.
Excuse me just a minute, please.
Oh, there you go. Miriam 420 says, been in 5 fires. None had to do with me. Was outside source or anything that happened. That's it. Especially for anybody living in apartments. Man, I still just don't. I could, if I had to live in an apartment, I don't think I could sleep at night.
I never lived higher than the second floor in an apartment.
Well, my thing is just, hell, I already worry about neighbors. What you got, Zach?
I need someone outside of my window because there's a hill that is outside my window.
Okay.
When you say hill, do you mean like steep and right there at the side of the house?
Like as in you'd fall out the window and you could roll and then go down there. Okay. Let me ask you this, Zach. I wonder, would there be a way that you could have like talk with your brother or your dad and have like a barrier? You know, nothing big fancy, but something that if you kind of could roll to a stop with, you know, have something just kind of decorative, maybe even a flower pot, you know, maybe just a long trough kind of flower pot. But that way, if you had to kind of get out, if you could at least dump yourself out, because then if you could get out without having to worry about rolling any farther, then you could start to crawl one way or the other and get on away.
You could even put dirt out, a mound, and plant some potatoes in it. But I mean, just dirt, making a mound so that as you started to roll down, you would hit the mound. At least it wouldn't hurt, because you're going to be able to stop yourself too. Something's got to be able to stop you.
Yeah, I just figured cosmetically, maybe landscape. I don't know. Yeah, because I mean, personally, I'd say I'd put a fence. That'd prevent that real quick. But I'm sure your dad's probably going to want to just up and throw a section of fence up. But if hey, like I said, a little flower bed looks good outside your window, so it don't look bad, but it'll sure be beneficial for you if you need to.
You can also get pins. They're doggy things, and you stick them in the ground, and they come in sections, 3 feet, 2 feet wide type thing. You don't need a big tall one.
Yeah.
And you stuff it down in the ground so that it's not coming up, and put flowers, put morning glories on it.
Steal a page from your book and plant a bush. Roll
Yeah.
into it, stop by a bush.
That's a good idea, as long as you're going to be on the ground when you reach the bush. There are can openers, Zach, that are made for people who can't use their hands. And they're not electric, but the hardest part, I had one, I gave it away to somebody whose arthritis was horrible. And the way you used it was you just set it on top of the can and pushed the button, and I thought it looked like a frog grabbing the top of the can and going down on top of the can, and then it cut itself, and when it had gotten all the way around the top, it just let go.
Yeah.
You could go and get one of those, because the lady I gave it to, arthritis was so bad that no other kind of can opener she had bought worked, and she's still using it.
Well, yeah, the can opener I was talking about was just one of those to do the finger ring, because that's what I've been noticing with my soup.
Mm-hmm.
That almost, unless you get like the vegetables, like a canned peas or something, everything has got this pull top thing, and some of them little shits, it's like, holy crap, man, what'd you do? Roll the damn truck over the top to press that little loop into the lid, because it's still formed in there. And that's why as I do that, I keep thinking a second, I'm going, okay, wait a minute, I'm sitting here, if this is a pain in the ass for me right now.
Girl's talking about slide outside his window. Then I'm thinking, put a baby pool. We're going to turn it into an amusement park. You can put a slide out your window, put a baby pool at the bottom of it, slide down and splash in.
I was with her with the slide. My first thought was going to be to say that until he said that it was a hill, and it was like, yeah, okay, well, we don't probably need to shoot him down the hill that fast. But I was thinking of one of them little.
Anyway.
You can do
But
the little
when she said
shoots.
slide, that was my first thought.
Yeah, the toboggans that I'm talking about are ones that you buy at Kmart, Walmart, those kind of Ace stores. I mean, they're just plastic, and they're ugly, but they'll go. Even my big bod goes on. I'm 6 foot and over 250 pounds, and my friend who's got MS can pull me in it.
Yep.
Everybody's talking about mattresses and baby crib mattresses and things, but I don't know about that hill. I think you put it down there, slides down the hill, then you're going to hit the hill and roll down and then hit the mattress, though. I don't really know.
Well, and it's also because his dad's house, and so something that he can get his dad to entertain so it won't cosmetically look bad. So
yeah, that's what I suggested the bush, because it's like, I just want to plant a couple bushes in case. I wouldn't even say why. I say, I want to put a couple bushes right here.
I tell you, you guys have made me realize I need to invest in a couple of rope ladders, because I live in a 2-story house. And fire downstairs, I can't get to the doors. And that just occurred to me. So
well, they even have, they've got slides too, like you'd see in the planes. You've seen the big old plane things. Well, they actually have little home ones now too that you can throw out and pop and compress air.
I've done that.
And I only say that because no offense, Tom, but as we get older, some of that grip. Well, if mama can't hold on to that as she's going down, well, it didn't help the situation. She still ends up if she falls. So that might be a safer.
Throw the
You get mama out the door quick.
Well, Mama's a lot younger than I am, so yeah.
I actually took a slide out of an aircraft. And when you get at the bottom, you better hope there's somebody catching you, because you're going to go down hard.
Bad. Yeah.
And go down really hard. And there were people who were breaking arms and legs as they came down that slide.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I wait long enough, I might not have to do this. So I kept letting everybody go in front of me. But yeah, I had to go anyway. And luckily, there was enough people down there, and they caught me, so I didn't break anything. But
They stay maximized.
they really are hard at the bottom. You need to bring something that you can get down without breaking yourself.
That's why the home ones are so much easier. I mean, you can do the home ones. They're almost like kid slides. They almost remind you of like you'd go to Walmart and buy your grandkid the blow-up pool that has this little blow-up slide to it. And that's the plain ones. I think it's because they're commercially pumped air, so that shit just goes and then it stays that way. Where the house ones, the ones that I've seen as far as when doing work and then seeing, because some of the elderly people that have these big fancy homes will have those, and that's how I got introduced to them. I didn't even realize they made home versions, but they're like glorified inflatable slides, and they have these compressed little air tanks that fit in the box, and you take it, you pull the pin, you flip it over outside the windowsill, and then you pull the air, and it shoots the air down this little slide thing. It's not like some long term, so you don't do that and then evacuate for the next hour or two. It's like only about a 10-15 minute. And you jump on them and they'll sag down, and then you kind of do a slow sag to the bottom. Hell, one guy told me he didn't even make it all the way, and it kind of stopped because it kind of sagged down, and he just kind of stopped and had to kind of go ahead and just get off.
Yeah, you don't want to go back in and get something.
No. And then you got the good old faithful chain ladders. Just throw them over.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It would hook over your windowsill.
Yeah.
And you can stay right there under the window and just be ready to rock.
But you do have to be able to hang on to them. And in the middle of the dead of winter, you're going to have very cold chains within seconds.
Yep. All right, so let's see. Zach's got, for people who are deaf or blind, what kind of preps could we get them to help them out?
Oh, wow.
Well,
Everything we've said, but in Braille.
yeah, the deaf would definitely, I would put more emphasis on, like when we talked about the lights and triggering some kind of visual. That would be the thing. I think anything that somebody deaf, they would want to focus on visuals for people that don't pay attention. They can get attention. On the blind, man, Braille would be the only, I mean, and I will say they might get like some hearing aid stuff so that they can actually hear even more. That helps them become aware, but reaching out to people, man, that's a tough one there, Zach. And as far as being able to handle, I would hopefully, and I don't mean this ugly in any way, but in all honesty, brother, I'm hoping that they're already functioning right now in an environment, because being blind, I can't even put myself in that perspective on how I would just kind of, I mean, I can talk a good game going, man, I can make it to the bathroom. But, if all of a sudden all that stopped just like that, and this was what I had to do, I got to tell you, that's even kind of one of those sobering thoughts when you just kind of really think about that. It's like, so just close your eyes and this becomes your world as of right now. Boom. Yeah. Dude,
I would hope that they would have things in the house. The blind would have things that go beep in the night kind of thing. Noises, horn, sirens that denote certain things. And instead of just a light on your fire alarm in your house, you would have a sound to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And if they are in their own environment, I think they would be okay as long as they had everything that we've outlined here. And maybe get somebody to help. With the deaf, I like your card idea for the deaf, and getting those written out in advance with key phrases, that in order to be able to communicate with the other person that can't do sign language.
Blind too, actually, ▴ᖼꅟ. I just thought of that. So if they got the cards just like that, but on the other side they had the braille, so that then that person would be able to kind of go, "This is what I want to tell you."
Right. Yeah, that's a wonderful. And they have machines that do that. And those who can't afford the machine can go to a library and do that. Most libraries will have the machine that will do that. Association for the Deaf is another place to go. The biggest thing is the deaf are going to end up needing a way for people to say things to them. So if they had the cards that said, I'm going to take you out to my car and I'm going to take you someplace else so you'll be safe, and then on the reverse had the braille, so that they could pick out they would have a bunch of cards to hand the hearing person that had the braille on the back. The hearing person picks out the card that's appropriate and hands it to the deaf person, and he feels it on the back.
Yeah.
So you would need it to go in both directions. But need something, they would need to brainstorm what they need to be told in order to get those cards made up. And talking to their family about helping them do that.
I would say, I was reading Auntie's thing and says most important that someone provides rescue with info they are deaf, e.g. not responding to rescue voices, or blind, same, so rescue knows when arrive. And I'd say that if you fall in one of those categories, and maybe even a handicap or whatever, you've got a limitation, but if you had just like a vest or something you could put on to where because the first thing I thought of was if you're deaf and you're not looking in that direction and there's hollering, I don't know how many accidents I've sat there and watched in training over the decades of bad stuff happening because they don't hear and they don't see. So, but if you had something to tell that person that you're deaf, so then they know, you just don't stand there for 5 minutes going, "Hey, get out of there, get out of there." Or,
well, there should be a sign on your door, maybe something like that.
Well, see, there's that leery part about letting people too much on the outside.
I wouldn't do that in the cities anyway. I wouldn't even do that here.
That's why I say maybe a vest, like if you need it, you put it on.
I knew I had something coming today that I was going to have to sign for, and it takes me so long to get from here to where the door is, and I didn't want my aide to have to go get it again at the post office next Tuesday. I need the thing beforehand, and so I put a sign on the door today that said that I'm in a wheelchair. I need time to get to the door. If you hear the dog barking, I'm coming. He's my service dog. He's not here by himself. And I was uncomfortable all afternoon with that sign out there. It's just, and I live where there's just almost nobody, and I'm on a dead end street where there's nobody but vacation homes. Yeah. There's only 2 people on the street that live here full time. But I was very uncomfortable with that out there all day. But there's been too many times they don't wait long enough for me to get there. They don't realize that hearing a dog bark means that I'm home. Instead of other people, the dog barks and they're gone. This dog's not going to be here alone because he's going to be with me.
Yeah.
As a service. But I think that the vest idea, because that's what we do with our service dogs. They have service vests they wear and tags and all this other hoopla. and you identify them. And in an emergency, somebody who is deaf or blind could put that on. If they had it, they would then put that on so that everybody could see it, a hat even, something, so that would be noticeable to everybody, so they would know that the person had an impairment, that they weren't getting it. And that's why they weren't getting it.
That's why around here, I think it's just because we have been rural and volunteer and everybody's kind of interacted. So it's kind of like we already know. But then I kind of thought, damn, if I just like up and move to Tom's area, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, if all of a sudden shit went down and I go out and that's like, okay, well, it's in my nature to help. So I'm going to go out to help. Well, this is a total unknown environment. I don't know anybody here. So can I visually determine what's going on with people off of the visuals I'm getting or the audios, and so that's kind of how I try to approach it. And that's what made me kind of going, dude, Tom could run out his front door and be deaf as a brick, and I would not have a clue if I'm standing over here and I'm going, hey, watch out, because a tree's falling on him. He wouldn't have a clue. But if there was something that was just hurricanes in the middle and he had something on there that says deaf, and I look over and see that, I won't even bother wasting a breath. I'm just going to run. You think, yeah, but and it's like, all I can say is unless you go through those moments, you don't realize just how much that 0.5 of a second matters until you're initiating, because you can.
Tree rescue, that's why I'm giving all this bad advice, because if you move to my neighborhood, it would be safe to put that sign on your door.
Well, yeah.
So forgive me. I'm innocent.
We know you're not innocent, Tom.
Well, plus Tom would have to have some kind of sign saying he was deaf for me to want to run towards Tom. Otherwise, I'm going to get shot.
I think that's the best thing I think we've come up with for really making a difference for these people, because
if it's a disaster,
to be able to deal with a deaf person in an emergency, because I studied it in college, but it's old.
If you have time and ability to get a vest on like that, great idea.
That's why even if you grab something by the door that you could just then and I hate to say pin on the front or hang around your neck, but it sounds demeaning, but it's not meant that way.
Just a big scarf. It's the scarf, and you put it on. And if we could get now this is going a little bit whole hog here. If we could get some way of getting this recognized by all personnel, get one made that is specific to the deaf and specific to the blind, and they would all be given one. They would be handed out to people so that this is their thing. That's the one thing they got to make sure they get.
Well, ma'am, I tell you what, Silver Girl, for people that are listening, what we could do on a local level, because Mr. Whine and Rescue starts whining about this local thing again. So if we get some of the people that have time to knit and crochet and that type of stuff, you could make little ones and put them in red with like white writing, or white with red writing, and put deaf and blind, and just do it around there, make them kind of small. But then we could start to any people in those areas, we could kind of get them and let fire departments and ambulances and police and sheriffs know that, hey, I've been making these and I've been handing these out to some of the deaf and blind people in the area, and I wanted you to know, because they were going to try to start using these if they, and it's kind of like a little brush fire. You start with your little piece of flint and a spark, and next thing you know,
they could be added to your medical alert bracelet.
Yeah, they do have those, but you've got to be there to look close at them to know it.
Yeah, so this would be something visual, just something out there.
Yeah, this would be something that if you like he said, if you were running right straight in the middle of the tornado and didn't see it, then you wouldn't be, if you were deaf, he couldn't tell you, don't go that way.
Well, there was a family, matter of fact, an experience here. I mean, it's been, probably about 2 decades ago, but the boy almost got killed by the collapsing of the corner of the house.
Yeah.
Because we got there and we were setting up and they were running out, but he stopped. Well, he was deaf and we didn't know that. Now the family did, but they had kept running and they thought he ran with them. And then they got out across the front yard, across the road, and on the other side of the trucks. And of course, then they're stopping and they're kind of going, well, wait, where's he at? Well, we had guys that hollered at him, but he was just kind of standing there because he was looking for them now. It's like, well, where'd you go? And he's looking all over the other direction. And it was just out of frustrations. And that's why I said, hey, you know, we mean well sometimes, but frustration is why that guy went over and snatched him up. It was because it's like, you're not listening to me. After the fact, found out he was deaf. And so it's just, that's what I kind of think of that going, you know, that would have been that moment. If that get out, grabbed it by the door, went out, and he's holding that, you would have at least known. And then that guy wouldn't have spent 3.5 minutes screaming at that boy to move. Get out of there. Get out. Anyway.
Mayhem. No, I don't know how to say that. I can barely read it with my glasses. But.
Oh, Twisted Lady says both of Tat's parents are deaf. So I see what y'all are saying.
Then you've got asthma too that 420 is talking about.
Oh man, it's one of the just FYI, but it's like airbags in your vehicle. The powder that keeps those from rotting inside when that burns, that is a poisonous gas that will kill you. Matter of fact, that's why my wife, if she was awake, she could come in here and you could see her go on a tirade. And she went into freak out mode. Actually, hurt herself when she got in a car wreck because that was the first. The airbag went off. Well, the side bags went off, and one of them, some of the white stuff came out. She saw it. She thought it was smoke, and she was just like, "Holy shit!" And she went to crawling out the other side, out the door, scraped her leg, but all she could freak out was going, "Oh no, I'm going to want to be in this fire."
You want to see a NASCAR driver move? Make him think the car's on fire.
What you also do, folks, speaking of local, go to the local rescue station where they are or call and ask them what would be the best things you can do for the rescuers, those with unique abilities. Yeah, because you probably will find out that most of your local places, they have, and I don't mean nothing, no disrespect to anybody listening to anyone, but they mean well, but that doesn't mean they always think of everything. Nobody can ever think of everything. So it takes participation in order to, they fine tune stuff, and it's shaped differently. You know, there's manuals, and I can tell you right now, ours doesn't go by that book fully because it doesn't fit for right here. You know, now you can probably go in a metropolitan city in some big multi-million population, and it's like, yeah, that all fits. It doesn't fit here. So it's been adapted to fit here. Well, where you are has probably been, and just need to add your 2 cents into the cog of that wheel, and then they become aware of you, and you get put into the plan. That's how that works.
You know, again, drop by your local rescue squad, fire department, you know, whatever fits your situation, and make yourself known.
When I was still in Vermont, the building that my office was in caught on fire. Because of the security rules, no one in the state, including the fire department, were permitted to have the key to that building. And luckily, one of the volunteer firemen and his father, who was also a volunteer fireman, lived next door to me. They came flying into my driveway at 5 a.m. in the morning with the siren going, and grabbed me out, nightgown and all, and said, "You're coming." Yeah. And was able to put the fire out without any damage to the building. Had they not known where I was and that I was connected, the building might have burned down. We're in volunteer fire department here. So that makes, and maybe that's what it is. It's that small town kind of atmosphere where you take care of each other. So why the people can they'll take down notes. They may not remember the notes, but like when our lock boxes on the houses here, they've got notes that are attached to the key and to the address. And I've heard them actually be telling them, don't go to the front door. You can't get in the front door. Go to the back.
Yep. Instructions. Let's see. Oh, okay. Twisted Lady says, okay, I got to run the dogs out. Got to get some rest. Y'all have a great day.
Right.
Hey, Michelle.
Good old puppy dogs. Window decal. There we go again with the window decal. Digital Hawk is saying window decal for deaf and blind too.
Yeah, you just got to watch that because you're advertising. That's the drawback.
That's the drawback.
2022. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so old. It didn't ever, and I've lived in rural Vermont and then rural here, and I still think it's 1950.
That's my problem too, Silver Girl. It's still 1968. You know, you can trust people.
well, that's where you laugh here because I mean, you know, it's just like here. We the windows. We sleep with them open. Hell, the patio door will be open when it's cool outside because that's how you save electricity. You know, you just go ahead and run the Mother Nature's stuff. As a matter of fact, I so wish I had installed an attic fan into this bad boy. But I understand talking to people now and kind of realizing where other people are. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. But then man, I don't. And what's going on right now, I don't know how anybody lives in the city.
You know, when I was growing up, the only time we locked our doors at night was if the word got out that a prisoner had escaped from Huttonsville.
Yep.
Other than that, you didn't even think about locking the doors.
And I lived in Nashville and didn't lock your doors when I was growing up.
Different age.
Yep.
Different age.
Societal fabric was different back then. It still had some morals attached and woven into it.
Yeah.
And the neighbors would come out any night, any time that they thought something was happening to another neighbor, they'd have been there. And now the neighbors are scared to come out too.
Well, now that's actually, I think I even talked about that one night was how it's, you know, if you were to going down the wrong road and went, damn, I think it was back there and you turned in the wrong driveway, people would be mowing their yard and then stop and look over there going like, hey, wait, who are you? Nowadays, man, you can back a U-Haul up to somebody's driveway in some of these areas and people will just sit on the porch across the street drinking tea going, oh, damn, wonder what that's all about.
Uh-huh.
And yet, if the person was home to whom you were backing that U-Haul on, you might get shot.
Oh, yeah. No, that's, yeah. What you got, Zach? You got something?
Well, hey family, thank you for coming together this evening and helping discuss ideas for how to prepare unique people if stuff does hit the fan. We need to spread knowledge so we could learn more every day. Have a great night and I love you all. The Bible verse for Friday, May 27, 2022 is, again Jesus, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. John 20:21 NIV.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Zach. I think you did an awesome show, sir.
Serving on your pay back.
It was an
Everybody,
honor to
don't
be
forget to
invited.
hit the likes up. I'm sorry, Tom.
We need you now. We need you now. One day, one day, one day. One day, I hope you see. This puppet show stays on because of you. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
Good night, everybody.
Have a great weekend. Don't forget, some gave all.
Good night.
That's how we get the liberties we have.
Have a
Great
smile.
weekend.
Love you all.